The topic I chose was the space race. My claim is that the space race was a result of political dispute between the US and the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and it was more of a political contest than a space technology contest. Some background information is that this was between two Cold War rivals, the US and Soviet Union. It lasted from 1955 to 1975. It was to see who could achieve advanced space travel and technology the best and fastest. Both countries wanted to beat each other as the citizens watched, and this is also what launched the Apollo program and NASA. The first satellite launched into space was on October 4th, 1957. It was the Sputnik 1. It took 98 minutes to orbit Earth, and it was the first ever artificial satellite. For the U.S., their first attempt exploded, and on January 31st, 1958, the Explorer 1 was launched successfully. This was 4 months after Russia's launch, and it launched by the Army. The first ever human in space was from the Soviet Union, Yuri Gagarin, on April 12, 1961, just before Alan Shepard was launched. He was in space for an hour and 48 minutes before Alan Shepard became the first American in space on May 5, 1961, aboard the Freedom 7. This launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida, and it was a Mercury Redstone rocket. On May 25, 1961, JFK, the 35th U.S. president, gave a speech about America's space travel and technology. He voiced his goals about wanting to go to the moon, create weather satellites, and also create a rover nuclear rocket. The first person to ever orbit Earth was Yuri Gagarin. He was also the first person to ever go to space, and it was on the same mission. He was in the Vostok 1 capsule on April 12, 1961. Around a year later, the U.S. launched John Glenn on February 20, 1962. He was the first American to orbit Earth on the Friendship 7 mission, and he was selected in 1959 by NASA. He completed 3 orbits around Earth on that mission. The first woman in space was Valentina Tereshkova. She was from the Soviet Union, and she was launched on June 16, 1963, aboard Vostok 6, and she did 48 orbits in 71 hours. The time she spent on that mission was more time in space than all U.S. astronauts combined to that date. The first U.S. woman in space was Sally Kristen Ride. She joined NASA in 1978, and this was on June 18, 1983. She was the third woman to ever be in space overall. The first person to ever walk in space was from the Soviet Union, Alexei Leonov. This was on March 18, 1965, aboard the Voskhod 2 mission. He was walking for 12 minutes and 9 seconds, tied to a 16-foot-long rope. The first American to walk in space was Ed White on June 3, 1965, aboard the Gemini 4 spacecraft on the Gemini 4 mission. He walked out and back of his spacecraft 3 times. The Apollo 11 mission was the first ever landing on the moon. It lasted from July 16th to July 21st of 1969. Commander Neil Armstrong and lunar module pilot Buzz Aldrin were the first men to walk on the moon, and Michael Collins, along with them, was the third American to perform a spacewalk. This signified the U.S. winning the space race against Russia. The Apollo-Soyuz mission was the first ever international space mission, and it was joined together by the U.S. and Soviet Union. It lasted from July 15th to July 24th in 1975 at an hour 30 minutes long. It included Thomas P. Stafford, Vance D. Brand, Deke Slayton, Alexei Leonov, and Valery Kubasov, and it eased Cold War tensions between the U.S. and Soviet Union. The Soviet Union and the United States were against each other politically during the Cold War. This was what sparked the space race and intensified the competition between both countries. It was another way the U.S. and Soviet Union could fight and win politically. This, however, turned from a political battle into successful space technology and travel. The missions and accomplishments by each country made history. During the Apollo-Soyuz mission, the countries joined hands to further the knowledge of space as we know it. This alliance eased the tension. It was now respectful competition rather than a politically driven fight. This is my works cited.